from the wild-type animals, or supposedly should be present in other species. So what we found in the transgenic mice, we understand that they are just a mouse model to mark the cells. So now to your question whether we found those cells in humans, how can we mark those cells in humans? As I say, the type 2 pericytes express nesting GFP fluorescence, while type 1 do not, and they both express multiple pericytes markers. So we use antibodies for this, and in sections, and we can see in wild-type mice, and we can see that the nesting antibody for the protein stained a lot more cells than the nesting transgene. So we couldn't translate it directly like this to find with nesting the specific markers of those cells. So if you give me, I have some slides to speak about this. So what we are currently doing is that we are searching for a special marker, to find a special marker in the skeletal muscle of those transgenic mice, and then after this test this marker to see if it works in the humans, because nesting was not perfect when translating into into humans. So what we did was we took type 1 and type 2 pericytes and did a microarray of each of the pericyte subtype, single RNA amplification, and then we did a whole microarray. But the problem is that we see a lot of differences. There is many genes. So there is a big difference. So where to start? So then we looked at any significant genes that we could find. We only wanted to see the significant difference. But after collecting the significant difference, here I'm showing you only the significant differences. So it still was a lot. So then we excluded the ones that are not known to be expressed in pericytes, that they are known to be expressed some other cells. The ones that are unknown we still analyze, but if they are expressed in other cell types, it will be still not very specific to pericytes. So then after isolation of the cells, we did the microarray, so we did heat map, and then we analyzed by function all these genes. Why? Because we are specifically interested only in the one markers that are in the membrane. Because if the marker is not in the membrane, we cannot isolate it without damaging the cells. So we only analyze the ones that are in the membrane. So even in the membrane, there is different levels of significance of the difference of those genes. So we selected only the most significant ones that are different. And it's still a lot. The ones that are plasma membrane markers, there were still a lot of genes. So all these are plasma membrane. And then what we did to confirm the gene expression, we needed to see whether the proteins are also expressed. So then we choose, first of all, we choose the ones that we could arrange to get it for free samples, because it's a big array, it's a big analysis. So we contacted some companies, the ones that we got for free, we tested them, and unfortunately, none of them was perfect to overlap exactly with one type of pericytes and do not be expressed in some other cell types. So our next step now is that we will invest into the ones that are most significantly different between the two types of pericytes that are in the plasma membrane, and also that already could have been reported in pericytes and were not reported in some other cell types. So this is the approach. So we did the same thing. So we have 83 genes to test from type 1 pericytes, and also we have 69 genes to test from type 2 pericytes. So this is what we are currently doing. I don't know if it answers a little bit. Okay, yes.
It's a really nice presentation and amazing body of work. What I found really interesting is the extent of accumulation of type 1 parasites in those fibrotic tissues. Now, you said that the production of collagen is tissue specific. Now, with this really significant accumulation of those cells, do you think that, this is just thinking, do you think they can influence production of collagen in other cells? I mean, could production of collagen be dependent on their accumulation irrespective of whether or not they produce it themselves? And I know that, whether parasites produce collagen is it's a controversial issue and it's different in different tissues. Is it possible that they do influence it.
Okay, so if I understood right, your question is that we show that pericytes type 1, they accumulate in all the tissues after injury, the ones that we tested. However, not in all tissues they produce type 1 collagen. Could they have some additional functions? We do believe that they may have some additional function, as in all the tissue, for some reasons they are recruited to the injury site. They could be signaling, secreting some specific molecules. They could be transforming in some other cell types and losing the expression that we are unable to track them in this mouse model. They could also be happening. So I do agree with your hypothesis. We are.
But see, if you don't have those cells, do you think perhaps you wouldn't have fibrosis or any other cells?
So it's a very good point. So this work was done in the Anderson and the Texas, but they didn't analyze specific subtypes of pericytes, they analyzed the whole population of pericytes, and they did what you say, what if we take out the pericytes? So if they took out the pericytes from the tissue, they showed that also it varies in different tissues. Taking out pericytes from the skeletal muscle, the fibrosis is diminished. It's not completely ablated, but is diminished. While taking out pericytes from the kidney or lungs, or there is two different groups, and each one show controversy. They are still discussing the results. So probably because different mouse models can show different results. So in one group, they believe that pericytes do contribute to tissue fibrosis. So taking them out, they have diminished tissue fibrosis, while the other group thinks that there is no changes. But we believe that it's very varying between tissue, and what our specific focus initially was the skeletal muscle, and in the skeletal muscle seems to be, the scientific community till now seems to be well accepted that pericytes do participate. The next question in our work is what is the extent of participation, because it's known that fibroblasts and some other cells also contribute to tissue fibrosis. So we are now trying to understand and trying to see what is the contribution of each cell type. Thank you. Yeah. But let's take many questions. Okay, wait. Better than you.
So you said that pericytes are stem cells. Most stem cells are in the musculature and musculature are all tissues. So most tissues have their own resident stem cells, like skeletal muscle has cellular cells. That is known that the ones that contribute mainly to tissue repair are myogenesis. So what is the contribution of pericytes actually in the mature tissue biology repair or maintenance?
Okay.
How should you explore what is the relative contribution of pericytes versus the endogenous resident in the tissue maintenance?
Right. So, just to rephrase the question as well is that pericytes are stem cells and are present in almost every tissue, as I mentioned, around the blood vessels, and they have this potential to form other tissues. But in every tissue, they also have these tissue-specific stem cells, which also can form this tissue. So what is the contribution of each type of stem cells and how to test it? So one of the approaches that was done with the whole pericytes population and was already done is that they remove pericytes through ablation of specific markers of pericytes. There are multiple markers that you can ablate those cells from the mice by diphtheria toxin and see how the tissue regenerates without pericytes. So they took the pericytes out and then they see what is the level of regeneration without pericytes. So this was the pericyte contribution. Then let's take out satellite cells in the muscle, for instance. Taking out satellite cells in the muscle doesn't regenerate at all. So it could be that, like we were speaking about before, is that pericytes may contribute through some signaling or through some connection with other cells, but there is some other cells that are shown in the literature that they are very important also to regeneration. However, the question can go even deeper is how to test whether type 1 or type 2, the subtypes, and what is their contribution to tissue regeneration, we still cannot answer this question because to ablate those cells, all these mice models, they use tools, engineering tools, based on some specific markers. This was the reason that we are analyzing specific markers of the pericyte subtypes because we still don't have one perfect only of those cells to ablate only a subpopulation. Yes.
I guess the microenvironment was so key in this, and in that one study where you showed that you had to add the muscle cells to actually get the transformation. So it's dependent, as you said in your thesis, on a soluble factor. And yet also, in conjunction with that, all of your studies on the other tissues are dependent on micro conditioned medium. How different are all of those microenvironments, and do all of them come to play a role then in the selectivity of choosing a specific cell type?
Right. So I didn't understand if this was a question or a comment, but let me
It's a little bit of both.
So the microenvironment definitely is very important. It doesn't exclude at all the endogenous capacity of the cell, because in some microenvironments not any cell can become what we want. For instance, for neural progenitors, that we, by the way, the neural progenitors, we can isolate them from humans also. This is what we are currently doing with Dr. Akionis. But the microenvironment, if we put the same type 1 and type 2 in the same microenvironment, one can form neural proteins, the other cannot. So probably the type 1 don't have some specific receptors for their signals, while type 2 do have. And also in myogenesis, when muscle formation, when we inject the type 1 pericyte, the same number, into the same environment, for some reason they don't form these muscle fibers. So is there a very important factor of the microenvironment? Which are those factors is very interesting, and this I think is the next step of this work, is to try to understand the mechanistics of these processes. Because if we understand what can inhibit and activate at the same time opposite types of pericytes and get the outcome that we want, or that we want to induce in the disease, a drug in the transgenic mice, then maybe we can test the same drug that is specific to the type pericytes in non-transgenic mice. So this is our future goal, is to go deeper into the mechanistics of the environment in relation to the stem cells.
I think this very good.
Robert?
So,
Wait.
are you aware of any differences of pericytes in models of neurodegeneration, of the role of the individual subtypes?
Okay, so during neuromuscular degeneration or neurodegeneration?
Neurodegeneration.
So neurodegeneration.
So in spinal cord, in ALS, in Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, any model.
So in neurodegeneration, people have been working with cells very similar to pericytes for years that are the oligodendrocyte progenitors. I'm sorry, so your question is whether the pericytes play a role in neurodegeneration. So pericytes, oligodendrocyte progenitors that are cells exclusive of the central nervous system, have been related with playing many roles and increasing in number after multiple neurodegenerative disease and as multiple sclerosis, for instance. So they increase in number. However, if you go back to those papers and you analyze, nowadays with the increased amount of markers to really identify a cell, it opens a gate for pericytes. Oh, this could be pericytes. So we have been rereading, doing research, searching again what happened already before, and we have been finding a lot of things like this, that pericytes may be playing roles that before were claimed to be roles of oligodendrocyte traits or Schwann cells. Okay. The rabbit question? So the rabbi, I'm sorry if it's finished, the rabbi, he knows very well this story because every Friday I go to his home for Saturday night that we Jews, we celebrate Saturday together. And he knows very well the stories because usually people from the community ask me what you doing, and then I need to explain. So he knows how to explain very well. He takes cells from the muscle and makes cells from the brain. So, okay, thank you.